I've never seen anything like that. They said what happened was they have a sheik who ran the whole country, goes back generations and generations and generations. And those people made lots of money off of oil. And it was like if you had all the money in the world, that would be the equivalent of what these people have. Well, they said the old sheik, there was a big difference between the very rich ruling families and then the ordinary people. There was a wide difference because they were poor and didn't have anything. Well, after the old sheik died, the family, his children, decided to change all of that. I'm hoping I'm getting this story correct. I may not be because I was just going by what I was told over there. So don't get upset if I don't have all the facts straight. But his children, when they are the ones who took over the whole area, decided to do something different. They wanted to use the family money in a constructive way. And that's when they began to build this tremendous place. And if you can imagine, if you had all the money in the world, what you could do with it. They have built whole downtown area everything is brand new. Huge skyscrapers. They're building bridges. They're building overpasses. They're building big highways. One man even built a man-made island just off of the outside in the harbor. A man-made island, and he put the largest hotel in the world is on that man-made island. Now they're building a bridge out to it so tourists can go out there. There was one huge dome. Inside that dome, you can go skiing, and they have man-made snow. And my friend that was with me, he said, well, I sure wouldn't think you'd want to come all the way to the desert just so you could go skiing. But it's like everything is possible they have done. They are building Dubai Land, which is going to be like Disneyland. And there's signs everywhere in the city, and they call it Dubai, the city of gold. And by gold, I mean real gold. There was one sign I saw at the side of the road. It said, Dubai, the city of gold. It said, the language everyone understands, gold. And they said, it is the cheapest place in the world to buy gold. And the people I was with took me down into the gold centers where they have all the stores. And if you can imagine blocks of jewelry stores, that the windows are covered with gold necklaces, gold bracelets, rings, everything you could possibly imagine of gold and gold statues. The windows are packed with this, store after store after store. And they said the gold is the cheapest in the world. And they bargain. I was surprised. We went into one, and you think going into a jewelry store they wouldn't bargain, but they do. But the money there in that place is tremendous. It's all riches. It's all money. And I also saw that some of the large companies all over from the United States and all over the world are building headquarters down there too. Some of these big skyscrapers are being built by these companies. But one thing impressed me was like, this shows what you could do if you had a tremendous amount of money and used it constructively and positively, because they were building these places, and now the poor people have jobs. Even if it's only in the construction, at least they have work, they have jobs. And we went by one place that was just open desert. And the lady that brought me over said, by next year, this will all be housing. That's how fast everything is growing. If what used to be desert is now part of the city. And she said when she drives to town to work into the downtown area, she'll suddenly say, where did that building come from? That's how fast they're sprouting all over the place. But to me, it was like a contrast, a parallel. Here was a country where the leaders had chosen to put their money into a positive direction to improve the country, to make it the richest place in the world. And right next to it is a country that's being destroyed by war, by bombs. By a country is pouring tons and tons of money into a place to destroy it and to use the money in a negative way. You may not agree with me on these things, but I was told I could say anything I want on this show. I saw two very strong contrasts between these two countries, what the positive can do and what the negative can do. Now, other people have said, well, I haven't seen all of the Middle East. There are some places over there that are pretty bad. That is probably true. But what I saw was beautiful and wonderful. Everywhere was money. Where I gave my talks was a country club out in the desert, and they had a big courtyard that I did the talks on and the workshops, and I gave my class out there. And the part we were in was a polo, an equestrian club. And they were having polo matches on the other side of the club with these beautiful Arabian horses. And everything was wealth, but it was all shared wealth. And they have the nationals, who are the ones who are the natives there that, dress in the normal. They don't all dress like that in the Arab robes, but then they have the Westerners. But when I talked about the radio show, I told them I had my own radio show now, and then I thought about it. I said, you guys can get this show, because all you have to do is put on the Internet, and they're able to do that. So I'm hoping they're listening, too, because when I left, they said, please, when you get back on your radio show, tell the people you have just visited the most peaceful country in the world. And that's exactly right. It was peaceful. There was no violence, no wars. The people there leave their cars unlocked. My friend said she could leave her purse on the front seat of her car. She wouldn't have to worry about anything. It's a peaceful country, and it's a peaceful rulers. My friend that was with me, he wanted to go out and ride the camels, so he went on an overnight trip where he was able to sleep under the stars in the desert and see the camels and go for camel rides. But like I said, I may not have the full story. Some people are saying I probably don't. But everywhere I go, I seem to find the positive. I seem to find the good in people. This is what I would rather focus on. I don't see the point in tearing up a country, trying to change people's beliefs and trying to change their government. These people can do it on their own. But there again, we could get into some arguments, and I don't really want to do that. I just want to tell you about a place that was beautiful, peaceful, thriving, and what can really happen if people set their mind to it. Now, they've asked me to come back, but I said it's going to depend on what else I can put in on the next trips, because that is a long way to go. But in March, I'll be speaking at an international hypnosis conference in India, in New Delhi. And then they want me to come back to India and teach my methods in 3 cities, in Mumbai, New Delhi, and Bangalore. So I'll probably be going back to that area, so I may return again to Dubai. But it seems like my work is taking me more out of the country now than it used to. Before I was doing conferences, some of them, I was at the height of this, before I started slowing down, I was doing a conference every week in the United States, sometimes 3 in a week, that I would just go from place to place, do these conferences before even coming home. And sometimes I would only have 1 day home before I had to set out for Australia or Europe. And that just got to be too much. So I finally had to cut it back to where now I'm only trying to do no more than 2 conferences in a month in the States. But when you go overseas, you have to plan it out differently to make use of your time over there. But I'm still traveling everywhere. The books are being translated into more and more languages, and as they reach the different countries, I have to go there to lecture with translators. I said in the beginning it was very strange as I first began to write my books. They were my children. That's what I felt like with them. A lot of you don't know, it took me 9 years to find my first publisher. By that time, I had 5 books written. So I said, it's just like incubating, like having a child. Only instead of 9 months, it took 9 years. And by the time it was born, I said I had a litter because I had 5 books in print, that were ready to go to print at that time. And then in the other shows I've done, I've told you about my background and how I formed my own company. But now it's as though you release a child into the world, just like you do in your family. You release that child out into the world, and it makes its own way. That's the way I feel about my books. They have taken on a life of their own. They are out there creating and replicating and duplicating and reaching people all over the world, something I would never have thought would be possible. But they have really taken on a life of their own and are going everywhere and touching many, many people. I get emails and letters and calls from all over the world saying how the books have changed their lives. So this is something that was totally unexpected. You couldn't plan something like this. Somebody in a higher power had to be in charge of it to make it happen, to get all of this going and spreading it everywhere. But I'm not sure what I wanted to talk about today. I guess I just wanted to talk about some of these travels because I know when the other shows I'm going to be focusing on the content of most of the books. And then I'll be having guests, too, at a later date. But some people have asked me if I know about my own past lives. And I do. I've had another woman friend of mine in the early days help me to find out about some of my own past lives. And the connections. I don't need to do it anymore because I've found out why I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I found out the connections with my families, so I don't feel the need to do it anymore. But there was an interesting thing that happened that was directly connected with one of my past lives. This happened when I went to Bulgaria. And this is about, 5 years ago when I was asked to go to Bulgaria. This was right after Bulgaria had separated from the communists. And it was in a terrible state, very poor. All the infrastructure had been destroyed. And, of course, the communists said, if you come back into the fold, so to speak, we will repair all the damages and fix the